side, as per the comments of Council Member Woodmer and Council Member Lewis.
Subject to our attorneys deeming them necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, done. Next item is item number.
Can I ask one quick question about the community meeting? Or is it okay if we just kind of stay? So we're planning on a community meeting, third week of June, townwide, and that is to have the sketches or the concept drawings of the sites be evaluated and talk to the town. Maybe, can we have, oh, should we decide? Oh, okay. No, that's this one.
Okay.
But is that the only community outreach meeting, I guess, that you're planning on having?
The library and the design of the library will be an expensive process. The first meeting we're planning on is a committee meeting that will focus on the site selection and the concepts and the issues that will be brought forward to the community at large. Will be dealing with the site selection. During that process, actually, through phase one, we will have outreach and focus groups and community meetings that will address the library programming aspects of the library. After site selection, we will move on to phase two, at which point the community will be engaged through a few more meetings to go through what the community envisions for the library. So it is a phased process. The first meeting, we look at it being critical and important, which will address site selection. And we are looking forward to that meeting on June 25th, but that is predicated on the approval of one of the consent items in tonight's meeting. Thank you.
I just have a comment. I think that this, the site selection is the most critical part of this whole process. And I think the residents, historically, it's very difficult to get enough residents to come to one meeting.
Well, actually, there will be one. There'll be a workshop meeting that will be well advertised, and postcards sent out to residents at Almanac website, and that there will be another meeting in August, which will be a joint council, a park and recognition meeting, and residents will also be advised and encouraged to attend that meeting as well. So effectively, we will have two public meetings.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not totally satisfied.
The next item on the agenda is item number 15, and that was pulled by Councilmember Whitman.
Okay. So my concern on this item is that, you know, it seems to be that we're starting to carve up our park. You know, we've got consideration now for the library moving into the park. There are, of course, AYSO and lacrosse teams use the park. Menlo Atherton Little League has gone before the Parks and Rec group asking for making some permanent facilities for them. And so we're starting to just cordon things off, and it leaves a little space for the people actually to enjoy. Now this hoop house that's being proposed is proposed for the corporation yard, and of course the activities in the corporation yard have currently been put on hold because we're not sure what we're going to do with regards to maintenance in the park. And in an outsourcing type of arrangement, the contractor might think it's in his best interest and in our best interest to have cost-effective generation if we move in that direction to actually store some of their equipment in the corporation yard. This is where the hoop house is being proposed. So to do something with this facility and this location at this time, I think is not really prudent. Because we're actually making a short-term decision when we haven't had the long-term information to make the decision. There are other activities that are in the park, you know, as I mentioned, such as the other non-permanent field locations, and, they have to come and on an annual basis ask for the use of the park. Such as the soccer and lacrosse, they constantly come back. And this contract would be binding to us as proposed for a 5-year period of time. So again, there'd be some permanency in it, and I think that again, it's a quick decision that could have long-term implications. Finally, I believe that the fee, quote unquote, that's being proposed is really not commensurate with the value of having a permanent facility or a semi-permanent facility in the park. And as such, and primarily because we don't have long-term vision on what we're going to do with the park and what's going to move to the park and how we're going to manage the maintenance of the park, it may be worthwhile for me to suggest that we consider postponing the decision on this and moving it down. So I offer that as for people to consider. Thank you for listening. Kathy?
Well, with respect, Bill, I don't think this is at all the same as the activities you referred to. I don't think it's the same as baseball or library or any of the other things that are under consideration for the park. And I don't see it as a carving up of the park. The reason for that is it's referring to a portion inside a portion of the corporation yard. So it's inside the corporation yard. It's not even going to be visible, it says, because it's inside a locked fence. Moreover, you refer to a 5-year term, but it is, the town reserves the right to terminate it at any time by giving 30 days written notice. And it can do so at its sole discretion, in whole or in part, due to any unfavorable condition, budgetary or otherwise economic. And so it's one of the broadest termination provisions I've ever seen. If we were to decide to outsource or build something else, or for any budgetary reason, decide to have somebody else work at the park and they want to store things there, we could terminate it. If anyone's taking a risk, I think it's the people who are going to be coming in here and building this facility. It's not the town, because we can terminate it at any time and they have an investment in it. I was going to pull it, but my question was who was going to pay to draft this agreement? What were the legal costs, and who bore the expense of the legal costs? Apart from that, I don't see that there's any risk to the town, because it's not a permanent facility and we have a right at any time to say to them, sorry, but on 30 days notice you need to leave. All the risk that I see is really on them, and the fact that they would even want to do this, given that provision, and given the fact that they have $1 million and $2 million ABAG retirement insurance policy, is really not a very favorable position for them to be in.
Well, I know, let's start the other numbers.
Yeah, I'm in favor of going ahead on the contract.
The reason I pulled it is I wanted to hear from the public as who their vision for it. I mean, I think it's a fabulous idea. I think the master gardener in our town and the education that can be done. So I don't want to say anything more, but I'd love to hear public comment about in support of this, because I think it's a grand vision.
Well, I'll make my comment first.
Okay.
My feeling is that even though we can terminate it, I see no reason for us to sign a 5-year contract. And I realize from what Councilmember McKeegan says, we've got all the conditions, but why bother with a 5-year contract? I mean, once a contract is signed, it's different, even if you have termination provisions. So I would recommend that if we're going to do this, and I'm not sure this is the right time, but if we're going to do this, it should be a 1-year contract. And we can see how it works, and there'll be no hard feelings at the end of that if we decide to terminate it. I mean, if we decide to terminate it under the 5-year status, then people are going to be unhappy, even if we have the right to do it. So my view on this is that we're going to do it, we should only agree to a 1-year contract, especially in view of all the things that are happening in the park at the present time. Now, we'll open up to the public.
name is Cindy Bergdorf. I live on Stockbridge Avenue. I've been a resident for about 30 years. I'm a master gardener with the University of California Master Gardeners. We are a part of the county extension program. Our reason for being is to bring the knowledge that the UC University develops for commercial gardens and have that information, education for the public. We have lots of functions where we teach classes. We also support school gardens, help them establish them, get them going. We have lots of information. We detect pests that are big problems for the county. We bring a lot of information. We are the feet, if you will, the people in the street who are helping the public learn more about green gardening, gardening without chemicals, lots of different things that are important to the environment. In the last couple of years, we have used the greenhouses at CSM, College of San Mateo, to raise seedlings, tomatoes and peppers, that we sell at our annual sale to support our organization. As you know, in these times, it's very difficult for the cities and counties to support these kinds of organizations, so we've had to do more fundraising ourselves. However, College of San Mateo has decided that they want to tear down the greenhouses to provide parking space, and so we will be unable to use those greenhouses in the future. We just completed our sale on April 2nd of this year, which was very successful. So we have been looking for a place where we could create our own, have our own greenhouses so that we could continue to do sales, and we would be able to look in the future. A one-year contract would not be as attractive for us because we have to put up the initial investment, which is about $12,000 to $15,000 to erect the hoop house, to buy it and erect it, and not being able to count on being able to use it for a couple of years under some reasonable agreement. Obviously, there are unforeseen things that may come up, would be, I think, would be difficult for us to make that decision, to make that investment. We have committed that we will teach classes for the public here at the park. We will also raise seedlings, provide annuals for the park for planting, and we will be open at all times to answer questions of the public, to help them with gardening issues, etc.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak?
I'm Nancy Grove, I live at 102 Britain, and I'm a founding member of Master Gardeners in San Mateo and San Francisco counties. I was trained in Santa Clara County, and one of the issues that we thought long and hard about as we determined where we think would be a good place to continue to have these sales is that we need to be very sure that we honor our friends to the south. I would just want to make a couple of additional comments to those Cindy raised. One, with all due respect to the need to maintain fluidity as this park planning process goes on, it's wonderful to be able to lay out a fully fledged vision, but I think as we've seen with our neighbors to the south in Menlo Park, sometimes that doesn't always happen so easily. Sometimes you have to kind of put a stake in the ground and go forward from there. From my resident of the town of Atherton view, I would say that having a place where adults and children can learn about gardening, can learn to garden sustainably, can show applicants' commitment to environmental stewardship, which, as a member of Vision 2020, I know is something that we're all really working for very strongly. I can't think of anything that has a stronger, best, and highest use for 500 square feet or whatever it is of a very large town park than a place to grow plants.
Are there any other members of the public?